the Nashville 2 podcast with your host, Edward Fox.
G'day, viewers and listeners. It's Ed Fox with another episode of Nashville 2. Nashville 2 is where we tell your story. And today, my special guest is Elizabeth Bradshaw. Beth or Elizabeth will interchange. Is that okay with you, Elizabeth?
Sounds great. Thanks,
okay,
good.
Great.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being on the show. Now, Beth, you're an author. You've done something that a lot of people say they're going to do, but you got it done.
You know, it only took me 14 years, Ed.
There you go. You know,
that gives relevant, right?
Right. That gives the rest of us hope. During COVID, I said I wanted to publish something, so I compiled a couple of dad joke books. As you know, I'm big into the dad jokes.
Exactly.
And so I got those compiled. So that was something that my wife pushed me. She said, "You said you wanted to do this. Just get it done." And
right.
I've started working on a book called "Be Authentic Unless You're a Serial Killer. Don't Be That. Change." So hopefully it doesn't take me 14 years. So tell us a little bit about that journey. Are you from Middle Tennessee originally?
You know, I was born in Indiana, and then my dad was in the Army, so we went to Missouri, and then his parents moved from the farm to Wyoming, and my dad followed suit. Spent 20 years on the police department out there. So, I think I was 3 when we moved out there.
Okay.
So a formative
Wyoming?
Wyoming, yeah, way out in the Great West, and big open spaces and horses and, the whole 9 yards. I learned to play soccer there. From there, I went to Kansas because I don't like the cold.
Right.
And so I went to Kansas for a couple of years, back to Missouri for a couple of years, and then when I graduated college, I moved to Nashville, which was, way too long ago.
Right. Now, whereabouts in Kansas?
I was in McPherson, Kansas, at a little school called Central, and so Wichita is where we would run for the weekends and play or whatever, and
Yeah, so with 30 years for me in Wichita, I like to say I wasn't born in the US. I got here as fast as I could, and then I say the same thing about Tennessee. I loved Kansas. People think there's nothing going on in Kansas, but there's a lot of stuff going on in Kansas.
Absolutely.
But again, I'm like you. You moved from Wyoming to Kansas to Missouri. I moved from Kansas to Tennessee because I don't like the cold either. And then, as we talk, this week's been crazy with ice and cold.
Yes, exactly. I'm like, I left. Maybe I didn't go far enough south. I don't know. But really, when I moved here, it was February of '93. And so when I left, I drove through Wyoming, through Kansas, or through Arkansas, and it was all icing there. And I got here, and everybody's running around in short sleeves and jeans, and I'm like, yes, it's the best.
Isn't '93? Was that the year of the big flood in Nashville? Was that or is that '96? Anyway, it doesn't matter. Somebody out there will correct me. Whatever date I say will be wrong, and I'll be corrected. So I'll just assume that I'm wrong, and we'll go from there.
Right.
So tell me a little bit about who you are, what you do. Let's start with those two.
Who I am. I am a stay-at-home mom of 6, and I have all 6 have played soccer. So I have 2 right now that are in travel ball. So that means soccer year round. So that's 85% of my life is soccer and where the girls are for whatever practice or game or all.
So you've got the picture behind you for those of you watching the video.
But the baby there is now 11. And
okay.
So it's a few years old. Our oldest is going to be 23 next month, and like I said, our baby just turned 11 in July. So
time for a new family picture.
It is time for a new family picture, and we just have not made the time to go do it. Of course, with working now, and Gabriel is in college, and Steph's about to graduate high school. So finding time where all 6 are not busy enough that we can take pictures, that can be kind of tough too.
Pull the mum card. Pull the
right.
mum card. But and you got some. Tony's a member of Trade Bank, or you guys are a member of Trade Bank, and so there's photographers available on Trade Bank where you don't have to pay any cash. So
that would be amazing. We'll have to look into that. So.
Yeah, I'll have to clue you. Maybe I need to talk to you about that instead of Tony, because
that's probably the way to go.
We talk about 400 other things when we get together. My husband, Tony Bradshaw, is an author also, and a podcast host that does the Millionaire Choice podcast, which is my wife and I's favorite podcast to listen to on road trips.
So sweet. I appreciate that. Thank you.
So, okay. So you've worked on this book for 14 years, and this is the reason why I asked you to come on the show, is to talk about your book, because I think it's valuable for people to know. So tell me about that journey. We have about 20 more minutes that we're going to talk about stuff, so we've got a bit of time. Tell me about that journey, why you decided to write the book, and what's been going on that's gotten you to the point where you've actually published.
Okay. So sometimes things happen that you don't always know it when they happen, that's a catalyst, but it is. The catalyst for me, when my oldest daughter was 3, I had a nightmare, if you want to call it that. Basically, I dreamed that she'd been kidnapped, and I wasn't in the dream. I wasn't like the frantic mom running around. It was like I was on the outside watching her interact with the guy that had kidnapped her. But you still wake up from those things with all the emotions, the fear, the panic, the whatever. And so as I'm laying in bed, I was in this moment of, Lord, please don't let that happen to my little girl. Like, protect my little girl. And what I heard back was, what if I want to use that to get to him? And I was like, okay, I'm out of this conversation. I've got things to do today. And so, like, you just kind of throw that aside and don't really think about it.
That would be hard, coming back, reflecting back at you like, no, that's not what I was looking for.
Right. Like, that's not what I want for my little girl. Okay, whatever. So as I began to move throughout my days, weeks, whatever, I began to so when I write, I get visions, like little movies, if you want to call them that, in my head, and they start to kind of change and move, and they're in there, and you've got to write them down to get them out of your head, right? And so I'd started with this, I'd have that scene, I'd have this scene or whatever, and then as I began to put them together, got to thinking about human trafficking and Jesus, and how does he help heal trauma like that.
Right.
And as a college student, I always wanted to write books where the tone and the language used was stuff that would be like you and I actually have a conversation, as opposed to sometimes some of those books seem so trite and they're just throwing Bible verses at you, and that's not how people really talk, and that's not how you win people over, and that's not how you comfort people. So why would you put that in a book? That was kind of my main thought. And so as I walked through that, I was trying to figure out, how would Jesus actually do that? And the more I wrote and the more I, watched what was going on around me, things just began to change. And again, a catalyst for me, my oldest son, is a painter. Mm-hmm. And so he was doing a project for school that required 40 hours of painting. And we would travel down the Natchez Trace and found a spot where he would set up his stuff and just paint the scene before him.
Oh, wow.
And one Sunday we were trying to get the time in before he had to turn this thing in. And so we were listening to our church service on the radio. And the group that was there was talking about a mission trip. And one of the things one of the kids said was, God doesn't want to just save the prostitutes. He wants to save the pimps and the Johns. And it clicked for me, that dream that I'd had and this moment and all the work I'd been putting into this book. And I was like, I know where God's going to take this. Right. This is a book on forgiveness. And so then it just took, a few more years to try to wrap it all up. Raising 6 kids and trying to write a book can be a little bit mind-boggling sometimes, but
shoot, I was a stay-at-home dad for a number of years with 3, and it seems like my only goal was survival.
right. Sometimes.
Yeah, I didn't get anything else done. The place was a wreck, but the kids were still alive, so I took it as a win. So
exactly.
I couldn't imagine trying to get anything done. It was like when my wife got home, she was the main breadwinner as a pharmacy manager when she for different firms, and when she came home, it was like, here's the kids. I need an hour. Hour. And I couldn't imagine even picking up a pen or a pencil or a typewriter back in the day, even then. So yeah, kudos to you to be able to do that. So tell me, who are the readers of this book?
Anybody that wants to maybe get a slight glimpse into what a traffic victim goes through. Now, I will tell you, I am not graphic in this book at all. There are, like top level,
higher level. Yeah, right.
The
way movies used to be. The way movies used to be before we had to have all the graphic scenes.
Yeah. So a lot of times I'll find that women are very touched by the characters in the book. But even my husband, as he's reading it, is like blown away by the way things move in the book and the nuances. So I think pretty much anybody will enjoy it.
Right.
But there's probably a women's aspect that's a little closer to home for them.
Okay. And so do you tend to find that it's is it focused for a non-Christian? Would they get value out of the book? Is what I
100%.
Flipping through it, I haven't read it, but I've got a copy. Flipping through it, I thought that they would.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, it's actually published as a non-Christian book. It's not specifically Christian pushed. That is who I am.
Right.
Jesus is so in me that I can't do anything that doesn't kind of exude some of that.
Right.
So yeah, he's amazing, and so like that's going to come through as I write. But a non-Christian 100% could read the story and appreciate the story behind what's there. It is a real world researched book. Like the things I have read, Ed, are horrible.
Right.
And so while I try to take the nuances of that, I don't keep the details of that.
What have you been asked about the book that maybe we haven't touched on here today? What else do we need to know?
I think really the thing we need to know going into this story is just that, like, forgiveness is not only a currency of the Lord, it's a currency of people, and like it helps. Your choosing to forgive helps alleviate the bitterness in your life, which helps your body function properly. And there's so much more to it than just, oh, I forgive you, and being really trite about it. Like there's a lot of things.
Right.
I've heard people say that harboring unforgiveness is like drinking a poison and expecting the other person to die. It's not going to happen. It's going to affect you, not them.
You see those people that are holding back on the forgiveness and are holding that grudge and won't forgive, and they like sort of shrivel up. It's like very physical, very easy to see this negative vibe. I always relate it. I relate forgiveness just into the simple. If you've driven through Nashville traffic, folks, there are times the only thing that is going to get you sane and to your destination is forgiveness.
100%. Yeah.
Right. And because we're pretty quick at giving ourselves grace when we make a mistake. Oh, we glance down at our phone and drift into another lane, or we, I don't know, we're eating a bagel and the egg drops out of it or whatever, and we're like messing around, and we're quick to forgive ourselves our mistakes, but we're not quick to forgive the guy in the next lane who does the exact same thing. Correct. Same grace. Well, he's being an idiot,
Right.
Is he though, or is he just being a normal human being that took his mind off what he was doing, and that whole forgiveness, as my folks passed and I saw their siblings interact with each other and my siblings interact with each other, when they passed, there's this pent up unforgiveness in some of them.
Oh, it's horrible.
Yeah, that's why
Yeah.
I don't spend time around them. They just don't,
Right.
And so that story of forgiveness, I think, is one for the ages, and one that we all need to do a better job at,
Yeah.
which I think is great. So when you're not writing books and you're not looking after 6 kids and you're not looking after your husband or whatever else, I'm sure there's 100 other things you do that we haven't touched on, because we were at the Tennessee Christian Chamber luncheon. Was that yesterday? Yeah. Was that just yesterday?
Tuesday. It's Tuesday.
Tuesday.
2 days
okay.
ago.
Yeah. So so one of the things we like to do on the show is talk about hidden gems. You came to Nashville in 93. You've probably seen a lot of things change between 93 and 2022 sure. As we record 2023. Sorry, as we record this. What's a few things that you guys like to do? We call them our hidden gems. So think about a hidden gem that you like to do, either by yourself, like a spa day, or with the family. What's something you like to do?
Well, with our family being as big as it is, trying to get us all together is like that tends to be our nucleus, and so like we like to do things like go hiking. So for us, outside of Middle Tennessee, Rock Island, which is kind of between here and Chattanooga, is a great place to go. Lots of little
and from Nashville, that would be how long a drive?
It's roughly an hour and a half, 2 hours.
So it's doable on a Saturday.
Yes, and it's so fun. And we have some of our favorite pictures. They have a little outbuilding in one area that has this little stair step brick wall, and so we like to put our kids up on there and have several different pictures of different ages of our kids all in this same stair step, and so those are kind of fun memories for us.
And that's
so being
called
outdoors.
Is that Rock Island?
Rock Island, yeah.
And what is that, a national park, or is that?
I think it is a national park. If it's not national, it's at least a local park.
Okay.
Just a great area to go hike around and play in the water and just enjoy, talking with family. And
so maybe keep it for the summer months.
Yeah, probably spring and summer, fall. Those are, which here it's great. Like you have a wide time to use something like that.
Yeah.
In Wyoming, you have like 2 weeks of summer and everything else is winter, and so.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so hiking, Rock Island.
Yep. And then there is a couple of drive-in movie theaters around town.
Oh wow.
We enjoy going to do that. Like that's kind of a big fun, like throw everybody in a big van and go just watch some silly movie, and the kids all like to talk about, like that's always one of the things the kids talk about, like, oh, remember when we went to see this and this was going on or whatever. So
so can you tell me any of the towns that the drive-ins are in?
There's one I think it's called Stardust, and that's I believe out 40 east kind of towards Watertown. There used to be one called Highway 50 or Highway 52, but I think they just sold or shut down or something this last summer, which is kind of a bummer. That was one of our favorites to go to. So.
I always wanted to own a drive-in theater. I always wanted to own a cinema. I've always been a big movie buff, but drive-ins were big in Australia too, right? Australia is a big open place, just like the US is. And we loved going to the drive-in. That was, everybody piles into the back of the station wagon with the old foam rubber mattress that was, the sun had sort of like made all sandy and gross.
Right.
And you just, and all you could wait to get was the stupid stale popcorn from the refreshment center and an ice cream cone,
Right.
But so I started going to the drive-in. Wichita has one, and I had a little Kia Soul, and I could pull apart my recliner, my Lazy Boy, and chuck it in the back of the Kia Soul, and then I pull it out and set it up. People are like, "You at home?" That's amazing. I'm comfortable. I'm good, dude. I had my recliner watching the movie, the radio tuned to the station that was playing I was all in.
Yeah. The problem with a lot of cars that we're finding, like the newer cars, is they'll run through about half of the movie and then they shut down because they're like, oh, obviously you're not going anywhere. And so like then we have to figure out Well, we turned the car back on because now we've lost all of our sound.
Right.
So, you can't just click that key once and it be on anymore.
Right. Yeah. I think the radio app. But I think what saved me is I carried a little boombox. I had found a boombox at a flea market, not a flea market, a thrift store,
Okay.
And I'm like, oh, that would be perfect for the drive-in, because my wife's like, what do you need a boombox for? It's 2020,
Right.
Not that the drive-in was open in during COVID, but yeah, that sort of stuff. So I love the drive-in. Okay, so we've got Rock Island drive-in. It seems to be that I'm one of 5, right? And my mom and dad were one of 6 and 7. And so you find those, you find those frugal ways of taking the whole family out, right? And so the drive-ins like that, because we would only go on carload nights. Like I think it was like $5 for a carload was the nights that we got to go to the drive-in. I remember seeing Gremlins, Star Wars, the original
all
Superman with Christopher Reeve.
Yes.
We're all driving movies because we could all pile into the station wagon and get us all there for $5.
Yep. Yeah.
So we had to save our money to go get the stale popcorn, which Mum started loading up. We call it a Tucker box, full of goodies. So Tucker is Australian for food, and so she'd do a cooler with the pop in, and that sort of stuff. Of course, what would happen is before we got to the drive-in, we were already attacking that and had devoured most of that.
Yep. Yeah.
So okay, so we've got Rock Island, we've got drive-ins. Give us one more. What do you and Tony ever get to just go do something by yourselves?
We
I know
do.
That's a loaded question, but
yeah, I know, right? We like to try to do date nights, and sometimes we will go to like one of the local hotels, be it a Marriott or whatever, and sit in the bar.
Right.
Because a lot of times those places are quieter. And so we'll sit in the bar. We'll take our computers and we'll sit in the bar and do a dinner and work on, for me, it was working on Montana Grace for a long time. For him, whatever he's got going on. And those are really good times for us to like just kind of chill and talk, and you don't have to worry about all of the people in the background or whatever, because it tends to be quieter. Anybody that's at a hotel tends to like run off to go do all the sites and whatever, and so it's kind of funny that it's that way, but
I don't know if you guys had a house like this or not, but Alice and I we'll talk about some things in front of the kids because we want them to learn about money. We want them to learn about different things. We will discuss a lot of those topics, but anything that's sent, if we're talking about one kid or if we're talking about, work, that the kids don't need to hear about the garbage I picked up with today or whatever. But my kids who are now grown would tell us that, oh, we heard everything you said through the vent system. So, we heard what you guys were talking about. We heard more than you wanted to. Oh, yeah, we heard more than we wanted to. Yeah. Well, so getting outside of the house sometimes was our only recourse as well. We would go sit in the car and drive around for the same sort of reason, right? Just to be able to and we let a lot of times there was an agenda for the conversation, but the best conversations tended to be the ones that just organically came about. So,
and drives are so good for that. We have a Jeep, and so sometimes it's fun to get in the Jeep and run down the Natchez Trace. That's another little hidden gem for us.
Oh, a fourth one. Look at that, people. You get a bonus.
Just driving down that because you're out in the beautiful scenery and you can just talk. And I love a good car ride.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing those hidden gems. So let's go back to your book for a minute as we start to wrap up. The name of the book is
Montana Grace.
Montana Grace. And is it set in Montana?
It is not, actually. Okay. It is a character's name.
Okay. That's I thought after you said you lived in,
Wyoming.
I thought, well, I don't know if it location wise. I always get Wyoming and Montana. I'm going to claim. I'm going to
side by side.
Yeah, I'm going to claim my Australianness and not knowing a lot about American geography. But then I talk to Americans that don't know anything about American geography. 100%. You guys have no excuse, people. I got asked the other day if Australia was in Europe. I'm like,
what?
I know. Although I do get asked funny stuff, people I give them grace. I really do. But like I got last 4th of July, I got asked if we have 4th of July in Australia. I looked at them and I said, yeah, it's right after 3rd of July. And they're like, no, I mean, Independence Day. Like, why would we have a July 4th as an American Independence Day? No. I mean, Australian Independence Day. I'm like, now they learned from you guys. They kept the shackles on, and they kept us as convicts longer than they did in America. So I said, but what people don't realize is that Australia wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the Revolutionary War, because the Americans fought to kick out the British and they had nowhere to drop their convicts. And so they said, oh, we found that country, a few years ago. Captain Cook found that country. Let's go use Australia now that we can't use America. So people don't realize the thin threads, right? The thin threads that America does as a whole. We're one of the most giving nation, if not the most giving nation on earth. And they don't realize all the impact we have. And that's the same sort of thing that you've done with this book, is the impact you can have on people's lives through the book. It must have compelled you to get it finished, I would think.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Just being able to speak into somebody's life and encourage them to fight through whatever they're fighting through. The whole resilience of the human spirit is amazing. And, we want to keep that encouraged and driven.
So Montana Grace is the name of the book. And where could people find it?
Pretty much anywhere you want to get a book, you can pick it up, whether it's Amazon or Barnes and Noble or Target. Although a lot of those, going to the website is probably easier. You can also get it off of my website, whether it's elizabethbradshaw.com or montanagrace.com. There's all the links there.
Okay. And so is it available in digital format as well as paperback?
It is available in both, yes. And I'm hoping sometime this summer to have it in audio as well.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I know. Yes, Audible is it is growing so much with.
Yeah, for sure.
And they have a lot of are they narrators or voice talent on there that will record the books for you? I was looking at that the other day. Yeah. Somebody said, no, you got to record the dad jokes in your own voice. I'm like, I want to do a series of 10 dad joke books. So I've looked in at that. My books aren't serious, because it's the same sort of thing, though. For me, healing, I say that healing comes through laughter, right? Yeah. So once, Reader's Digest has been telling us that for over 100 years. I think they've been
100%.
Laughter is the best medicine. So with Montana Grace, do you have a copy of the book you can hold up? And
I do, actually.
Yay! There we go. So that's what you're looking for. You can see the character looking through the tear on the front page. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so for those of you not watching the video, you can go to YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn. This video will be around and you'll be able to access that. Any last thoughts you want to share with the listeners and the viewers about the book?
About the book, I hope you pick it up and you find hope through it.
Okay, that's it. And then any last thoughts just from you personally to all the listeners and viewers out there?
You just need to keep listening to Ed and all of his gems. That's what we need to find in this life.
Well, thank you. You could have gone in so many directions, but I appreciate it. Thanks. And folks, thanks for listening. And be sure, if you've got somebody that has a story to tell, and we need to get them on Nashville too. There is no cost to them. I don't charge anything for this. The thing, when I got to Nashville, my goal was to learn about people, because when you learn about people and you can add value to people, that's really what I like. I told my business coach, I said, two things to me define success. I'm a business guy. I love growing businesses and I love making people laugh. And if I can help people grow their business or grow awareness of what they do, whether it be a nonprofit, an author, you're not doing this for the money. Most books never make any money, but you can pick up that book. I remember the smallest book I ever picked up was a book called Hung by the Tongue. And I found it at a petrol station, a gas station, a service area, like a Petro or a Flying J or a Love, something like that, on a rack. and it was just Bible verses that teach us to be careful of what we say.
Wow.
Right. And that book was a bathroom reader, right? It just hung around for years and years and years. It's probably still around somewhere, but when we moved, so you don't know the value you're going to get out of a book. They could read one line out of your book and it could change their perception on how they treat people or how they do something. So, and whether I say, oh, do you read, what's a great book you've read lately? Oh, I don't read books. Well, but
That's
you
so
listen
sad.
to audios. Well, yeah. But, I listen to a lot of audios. It doesn't matter how you get it, right? Whether it's a podcast, whether it's a narration of a book, whether it's a PDF, whatever it is, whether it's a quote you read on Facebook. We read, we listen to, we see all the time, and we can learn things from different people. It's an amazing time to live. Yes. That we are always being educated. And so, folks, pick up Montana Grace.
Yep, Montana Grace.
Okay, pick up Montana Grace from an internet near you.
Yeah. Thanks, Ed.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
This is the Nashville 2 podcast with your host, Edward Fox.